Today we're going to talk about percent of change. Again, 7th grade, this is the standard for you, and 8th grade it should be a review. So we have a little formula we can use to find the percent of change. It's going to be x over 100 equal to, and this was supposed to fit here and it didn't, so amount of change over original, and we're going to use a proportion. So notice it's always the amount of change that goes on top, not one of the original, not the new amount or anything. And usually we round these to the nearest whole percent, and a lot of times they ask if it's an increase or a decrease. I'm not sure if it does that on your homework, but we'll try to answer that. We can do that first. If it was 32 and now it's 25, did it increase or decrease? It did decrease, and if you just want to put a D, that's fine by me. So we're trying to find the percent of change, so we know we're going to have x over 100 because we don't know our percent. How much did it change by? Well, if it was 32 and now it's 25, you can find the amount of change by subtracting the two and get 7, and then the original amount always goes on top, which in this case is 32. Once you get it set up, it's just using the cross products like we've been doing, so 32x equals 700. Divide by 32, you're going to get x equals, and you do get 21.875, but according to the directions of the nearest whole percent, that's the ones place, it's going to round to 22%. So make sure you round to the nearest whole percent. On number 2, is it an increase or decrease? It was 115, now it's 155, so it did increase. We need x over 100 because we don't know our percent. To find the amount of increase, you're going to subtract and always take the smaller number from the larger, so we get what, 40 when we subtract. Goes over the original amount, which is, oops, and I did this one wrong, is 115. So I have to do some calculations here. So we get 115x equals 4000, so I need to divide 4,000 divided by 115, and you end up with 34.78, so on, so it would round to 35%. Now we're going to use percents. This is just one way to find percent of change, but we can also use it I'm trying to change the answer here, sorry. Buy or sell things or pay tax. So remember, you do pay a tax. Sales tax in Indiana is 7%. Could be different in other states. But probably the easiest way to do these is to write your percent as a decimal. 7% would be 0.07 and multiply. And what are we going to round our money off to? We're going to round to the nearest hundredth because a penny is the smallest amount of money we get, so we'd get $31.87 is going to be the tax. But this said find the price, so what would we do? We would need to add it on to get the price because we pay a sales tax, and you get $487.15. And again, I'll let you use the calculator to do this, but show me what numbers you're doing. Now there is another way to do this that some of you might understand. If we're paying, this is the price of the item, what percent is that? Well, that's 100%. In addition to that, we're paying 7%, so we're paying a total of 107%. To write that as a decimal, it would be 1.07, so you can put 455.28 times 1.07, make sure you see my decimal, and you can go right to this answer. So if they don't ask for the tax, that might be an easier way to do it as long as you understand that. Problem 4, we're going to buy something on sale, and we're still going to find the price. It doesn't really say find how much you save, but we're going to find the price. So just like the last time, if we're going to take 15% off, write that as a decimal, 0.15, and multiply. And again, if you want to set this up as a proportion, you can. 15 over 100 equal x over 45.78. And when you multiply this, again, you're going to round to the nearest hundredth. You're going to get $6.87. That's not the price. That is how much off you get. So then you're going to take these two numbers and you will subtract them. If you subtract them, you get $38.91. So how could I do this in a more direct manner? Well, if I'm getting 15% off, what percent would I be paying? So think about that a minute. Because this represents 100%, 15% off, you would be paying 85%, 100 minus 15. So if you multiply those two together, you will go directly to this answer. So I don't care whichever way you want to do it, makes more sense to you. Just show me your work of what you're doing, and you can use your calculator to do arithmetic. Now we're going to talk about simple interest as opposed to compound interest. Simple interest, the little formula we have is interest is equal to principal times rate times time Principal is the amount of money that you're investing or borrowing, depending upon which it is. Rate is your interest rate, and usually written as a decimal. And time is the length of time you keep it. You do need to make sure that your time and rate are in the same unit, like years or months or whatever. And here we're going to just find the interest, but there could be a question that I'll talk about here in a minute. So $4,000 would be the principal. This is the rate, but we're going to write it as 0.055. That's a decimal. And this would represent my time. So if I take 4,000 times 0.055 times 3, and again use the calculator for that, you're going to get that the interest is $660. Now what if I said, and this is borrowing money, what if I said how much did you owe the bank at the end? You would take these two and add them together. So make sure you read the question to see if it just wants the interest or wants something else. You can also earn interest when you invest money, so we're investing $7,000, that would be the principal. This would be the rate, but we need to write as a decimal 0.04, and this would be the time. And it doesn't say per year, but usually rate is in terms of per year, and this is in terms of months. So what part of a year is 6 months? 0.5. So you would have to make sure you adjust that accordingly. So if you multiply those three together, you're going to get $140 as the interest. Now compound interest is something different, and we'll probably talk about that at a later time, I think, when we get farther into the book. So this is just called simple interest here.